Communication can be very difficult for introverted or socially awkward people. They have to put in a bit of extra effort into communicating with others, and people like us who are a bit introverted and socially awkward, or those who are not socially integrated with their surroundings, it can be pretty difficult for them to interact with others, and they end up compromising themselves. And what I mean by compromise is they cannot be their true selves. They often try to copy certain behavior patterns which are not inert to them, and they often come off as trying too hard or not trying at all, or give that weird or creepy feeling. So for that purpose, I have tried to explore some of the effective ways in which socially awkward people can communicate without compromising themselves. Now, the thing about socially awkward people is that maybe when they were in their childhood, they were not well socialized, or they might have had some experience which prevents them from making bonds with other people, which something in their mind hinders their ability to make genuine connections with others. So for that purpose, socially awkward people need to put in some effort. Now, this can be done by learning a few skills, and these skills must be applied consciously, though these skills which I have come across are mostly can come out unconsciously or very naturally if you were socialized when you were little. However, due to some reason it is not natural, but it is possible to learn this by putting in some conscious effort. Now, the angle which I have taken in my own life is a bit of the scientific approach compared to the completely social approach. Of course, you could say socializing is a science in itself. Now, the very first thing which one can do is becoming good at observing people. Now, people usually display two kinds of behavior towards you. One is that of comfort, and one is that of discomfort. So the comfort behavior can be associated to a dominance behavior, while discomfort can be associated with nervousness or submissive behavior. Now, while observing people, there are mostly three things that we will look at, which is the face, the body, and the clothes. Now, the first thing which we look at people from afar is their clothes. From their clothes, we can determine a lot of things. For example, the archetype that one is trying to portray. Now, fashion is a reflection of what a person is thinking, or their subconscious or conscious mind. Clothes is like a second piece of skin that one wears while going out to socialize. Clothes display how one wishes to be treated by the other person. People often wear various accessories, for example, maybe a chain or a necklace with a huge emblem, or maybe they have a stylish watch, or maybe even bangles or earrings, or even rings, for example. All of these accessories reflect something or the other about that person, and depending on the quality or what that symbol is, that reflects what a person is thinking or how that person thinks or behaves. Of course, all of this is just a reflection, and it is not conclusive in any way. One must refrain from drawing conclusions from their clothes alone, for one might sometimes be wrong. For instance, when that person is, say for example, undercover, and there is no way knowing what that is. Clothes also reflect perhaps the economic condition that that person is living in, depending on whether their clothes are completely clean or ironed or just crumpled, the small things like that. Or maybe there is a stain on their t-shirt, which can signify carelessness. And of course, when you meet someone, giving a compliment or commenting genuinely on someone's clothes is always a good conversation starter. Now, as you get closer to a person, the next thing which you may observe is their body language or body posture. Now, there are many things that we can get into that is scientific, but some of the easy things that one can look at are the position of their hands, the way they are standing, whether it's an open posture. An open posture signifies engagement with the world. Compared to when one is closed, this can be called as a blocking behavior, where one is trying to protect themselves from the influence that is coming from outside. The other thing which one can look at is their hands. When it's open and facing, it means that they are engaged. And when it is closed, it means they are either refraining from saying something. You can look at the torso. The direction in which the torso is pointed indicates some kind of interest. Another definite sign of interest is someone's feet. You can easily say what one is interested in by looking at the feet one is, in the direction in which one's feet is pointing at. So if someone's feet is, say, pointing towards you, then that means that person is interested in you. If someone's feet is pointed towards the door, it means that that person is trying to exit that situation. Or if someone's feet is pointing to, say, someone else but is talking to you, well, that shows that that person is interested in that other person. Or say that person's feet is still pointing to you and another person comes in and joins, but their feet is still pointing towards you. So that could show that that person is really interested in you, or maybe they are trying to ignore that person for the time being, or they do not wish to engage with that person at the time being. So basically, when it comes to it, body language is basically a closed behavior or open behavior. Open, engaged; closed, well, restricting engagement or restricting influence from coming in. Next, we can move on to face reading. Since we were little, we have always looked at our parents' faces to determine what our parent is trying to express or how they feel towards us. And babies are really keen towards the expression of their parents, and they can pick up very small expressions from the faces of their parents, and they are extremely attentive. And that is where we learn to read faces. However, for some reason, people or children, as they grow and develop, maybe due to some kind of childhood trauma perhaps, or something that happened, they stop looking at people's faces, and gradually they lose the ability. Well, it's not completely lost, but they do not remain as good as they were when they were little at reading faces. However, it can always be relearned. Some kind of effort is, however, required in this. Again, when it comes to face reading, there are mainly two types. One is comfort, and that of discomfort, where comfort shows confidence and discomfort shows nervousness. When someone is comfortable, their face is relaxed. They are smiling, their chin is out, which shows engagement with the person in front. The other is nervousness. When a person is nervous, you'll see all kind of animated expressions. For example, wrinkles on the forehead, like that, or furrows over here, like this. Their chin will be tucked in. That again is blocking behavior. So the neck is a vulnerable part of the body. So you are essentially blocking your neck. You're protecting your neck. Protect your neck. That's an amazing rap. Anyway. Some other things that you can look at is, the lips, which can, when someone is doing that, or someone is making, the bunny nose, like that. Of course, these expressions, they show different things. For example, this is disgust, like happy, maybe. One of the first things we notice when we meet another person is their hair. Now, when we are children, we always play with the other person's hair. It's pretty natural, like you just go and play with the hair. But then gradually, when you become civilized, we stop doing that. However, as a grown-up, you do not have to completely stop doing that. You can play with the hair by commenting on it. So you can observe whether their hair is wet, dry, long, short, colored. All of these different conditions of the hair can give you some insight on that person. In front of you. Like we discussed previously, the forehead, if it's like this, then that person is comfortable. If it's like this, it shows some kind of discomfort. The eyebrows can give off a lot of information as well. So say their eyebrows are raised or like this, they signify various emotions. You can look up Paul Ekman if you are interested in these kinds of micro expressions of the face. The mouth area can give off various information as well. So there are different kinds of smiles. Say, there's the social smile, or the interested smile, or the curious smile, or the secretive smile. It is important to understand what kind of smile someone is giving you. For example, the social smile is just, a smile which we give everyone we come across. Like that. It's a sign of politeness. An interested smile is one which you could call a genuine smile. And one way to know that if it is a genuine smile is you will notice wrinkles over here. So that way that person is really interested in you. And it is important to distinguish between these two. So, when you walk into a room and you look around, and that is when you can identify if someone is genuinely smiling at you. And then it becomes much easier to befriend that person. So it is a welcoming sign. So then you can go and have a proper conversation. So that saves you a lot of time and effort, especially when you go for networking events. You can always look at the hands of a person. The hands of a person always convey a lot of information because it's always moving around, even on the face. So for example, this is a blocking behavior. That person is not comfortable with that situation, or someone is covering their mouth. Maybe they don't like something they are hearing, or something along those lines. And it comes in relation to body reading as well. So you cannot isolate each expression. Body reading and face reading have to be done in synchronicity. What I mean is it has to be congruent with several expressions which are shown. So if one moment they are smiling, one moment they are disgusted, so maybe they are just reacting to your story. But if someone is constantly making unfavorable expressions towards you, they are also doing that, and like this continuously while you're talking, then perhaps that person is not really interested in you and it's time to move on. So congruency is very important when you are observing someone. Isolated expressions will not give you any information, or you will draw false conclusions from there. Through our face, we validate what the other person is saying. Because when you are speaking to someone else, they are also looking at you and they are looking for feedback from you as well. So in a way, you are validating the other person as well when you are listening to them. So through reading of the face, we gain understanding of ourselves as well. Now, through this reading and after your observation of the other person, of their body, their face, and after whatever major conversation you have had with that other person, you can try and determine the temperament of the other person. So their psychological temperament, you can classify it into 5, which is the OCEAN. So the O stands for openness, C stands for conscientiousness, E stands for extroversion, A stands for agreeableness, and N stands for neuroticism. So openness shows how open that other person is to ideas or is adventurous in various regards. C is conscientiousness, or how hardworking or industrious that other person is, how dedicated they are to their work or various aspects in life. E is extroversion, how talkative or how animated they are in their nature. And on the opposite side of that is introversion, where that person usually keeps to themselves or is quiet most of the time. A is agreeableness, or how often they say yes to what you suggest, or they just go along with it. Disagreeable people will say no most of the time, or they will want to do what they want. And neuroticism are people who think a lot about what if situations. Like they are worrywarts. They just worry about things. So if you are able to classify a person's personality into these 5 categories, it becomes easier to deal with that other person. So you can know their likes, their dislikes, or how to respond to them, and how to ask something from them. And it becomes much easier to deal with these people. So after that, your conversation with them becomes more efficient. Now, conversation can be particularly difficult for socially awkward people or introverted people. Well, language is definitely one of the most important tools of mankind. Through language, we are not only able to express ourselves, or others are able to express themselves, we are in essentially programming or engineering the other person's brain by giving them ideas, by injecting thoughts into their minds which can cause them to come to action. So in a way, you are engineering their actions by your speech or your language. Now, one of the most powerful tools to go about this is NLP, or Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So this is a way, it is a systematic way of using language to program the other person's neural pathways. It's an extremely interesting topic. Now, 2 easy components of NLP are the 2 of the easiest components to integrate into your regular speech or your behavior is positive language and mirroring. Well, positive language is nothing but using or not using negative words. For example, not, don't, won't. Negative words. Now replacing these negative words with positive words in your speech pattern does wonders. So for example, when you say, don't eat that, that person will first think about eating it and then will think about not doing it. So instead we can just say, stop, or refrain from eating that. In this way, well, your vocabulary also improves. And by doing this, you are sending the message directly into their brain, which shortens their reaction time, and they are much more likely to take your suggestion into account, leading them to a positive action. Now, mirroring is basically copying the other person's actions. When we are little, we learn how to behave by mirroring our parents, and when we are in school, we try to mirror our teachers, and that is how we learn various things. When you mirror, you show that you are in sync with the other person. And that not only shows you are in sync, you in fact become in sync with that other person. Because if you are already in sync, you will automatically be mirroring that other person. So if you consciously try to mirror that other person, your brain will come into sync with the brain of the other person as well. Now, by some stroke of luck, you are able to befriend a person, and say you were invited to a person's home. You could know a lot of things about that person by merely looking at the various things at his home, and also his proximity with various things at his home, the way things are arranged, the colors he has surrounded himself with. Sam Gosling writes a very interesting book called Snooping. Well, if you're interested, you could give that book a read. Well, in conclusion, communication can be little awkward for socially inept people. However, it is not impossible. You can always try to go out there and speak to people, or at least just listen, and maybe someone or the other will understand you and try to communicate with you. And of course, if you put in some amount of conscious effort, it does get better. Of course, inside you will feel that you are the same, but well, that is just your anxiousness speaking, or your neuroticism speaking. Well, in fact, you are actually improving and doing better. Well, one thing which I can suggest, which will definitely help a lot, is going for improv sessions. Well, if you have a community which is into acting, then you could try to involve yourself in that. Or you could just make use of YouTube at home and try improv in your own time. And that is very, very helpful. Well, with this, I would like to end my almost 30 minutes of monologue